We already talked about workspace and configurations, but we still need something else to make these Visual Studios files generate. And what we're probably lacking is the project file. So the solution is a wrapper for everything, but it doesn't really get compiled into a product, so it's not really enough to generate the Visual Studios project. So we need to create projects within the solution, and those projects are what are going to be compiled into objects that can be run as programs. So let's go ahead and go over to Notepad, and we will create our project. So I'm going to switch to Notepad here. And okay, let's just go ahead and make a project, and we're going to call it my second program. All right, we're going to save that, and then we'll go and we'll run that from our generate projects file, and that failed. So give me a second, and we'll bring up the output window here. All right, so there's the output window, and you can see that the error says project my second program needs a kind. So we have to figure out the kind. So let's go do that. So kind specifies what type of object we're going to be making from our project. There's 9 different possibilities in Premake, but the 4 that I show here are the ones probably that are used most of the time. So we can make an executable, either a console application or app or a windowed app, or we can make a library, which is not runnable, it's not an executable. So we can make a static library or a dynamic library, which is a shared library. We don't have any code to make Windows yet, so I'm going to just stick with console app. So let's go back to Notepad and try that out. Okay, so in Notepad we're going to make a kind, if I can type, and the kind is going to be a console app, and let's save that, and okay, let's go to our folder, program folder here, get rid of Notepad. Alright, so from our program folder, let's generate projects, and okay, that worked. So let's hide the program folder for a second. We can see the output. We generated a my second program solution and a my second program project. So that's great. Let's go back to our program folder, and you can see in here those are those 2 new files. Let's go ahead and look at what we have in Visual Studios. So that's here. We need to, Visual Studios, okay. All right, so there's our Visual Studios, and what you can see right now is that we have, there's my second program solution, and there's my second program project. Let's see what happens if, so this was a successful creation of our files, but let's see if it runs. So the build succeeded, but then it couldn't find our executable file. The problem here is probably that we haven't actually built anything, because it probably doesn't know where our files are. So let's look at, so I clicked on my second program project, and this button gives me my files. So let's go in here, and if we see this, so this, I don't think it can see the source CPP file yet. I think that's what this red circle means. So we need to do something to help Visual Studios find our files. So we've been successful in, I'm going to hide the Visual Studios window so we can look at the program window. So we have 2 problems going on here. One, we're generating our project files in the solution folder. We kind of want them to be generated in this project folder. So that's one thing that we're going to correct, and the other thing we need to do is we need in Visual Studios, we need Visual Studios to be able to see our source file. So let's go back to Notepad and fix those two things. Actually, before we go to Notepad, I'm just going to do some learning stuff here. So the location specifies where the project file is located, or where we want it to be located. And then the files, that's going to explicitly tell Visual Studios what do we want to compile as part of the project. Visual Studios wants to know what our files, what our include files are. Okay, so now we'll go to Notepad and we'll add that stuff. So let's add a location. Our location is going to be in my second. Okay, program, we can auto-complete that. So that's going to go my second program. That's referring to that my second program project folder. And then we're going to specify the files. Files are going to go in some curly brackets here, curly braces, whatever you want to call them. And let me see. So my second program folder in the source folder. And then we have one file in there named source.cpp. We can also say, hey, everything that's in the source folder, we want you to be able to see. We can use that little symbol there. Let's save that and go back to our folder here. And let me see, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to delete this old stuff. Delete, delete. And then let's run our Premake file again. Okay, it worked. Again, we can see our solution file there. But we don't see our project file, but let's go into here. There's our project file in the right place. That's great. Let's go over to Visual Studios. I'm just going to reload before I bring up Visual Studios. Okay, there's our Visual Studios. Okay, so here's our solution, here's our project, and now we can see here's our source file. So it is able to recognize our source file now. That's good news. Let's try running this and see what happens. Built successfully. There's a window. Let me give you the output window here. Let me see, so that's going to be the debug console. Okay, hide this other stuff. And there's our output window, and you can see in our output window my second program written at the top. That is the only thing our program was supposed to do. So we were in fact successful at creating our Visual Studios files and creating an executable program. So the last thing I want to do here is I'm just going to go back to our program folder, because I just want to show you what I mean by objects. If we go in here, here's our object folder. This was created by the compilation process. We can see a bunch of files in there, here's our source file that's turned into an object file. And then if we go into our binary folder, debug, here's our program. This is our executable program. So those are what I mean when I say our project will be built into objects. Okay, now that we've gotten Visual Studios to create our project files and to successfully compile and run the program, I just wanted to point out a couple features about Visual Studios, in particular because one of the main things that we're using Premake for, other than generating files, is to set our program or project settings within Visual Studios. So let me just show you an example of what I mean by that. So if you look up here at the debug, this is you can see the little drop down solution configurations. So this is where this is where that missing configurations was. We didn't have anything specified. Then we said, okay, make a debug configuration. And you can see right now that's the only one in there. Up here we also have the solution platforms. Right now it's set to Win32, which is a 32-bit Windows platform. That's kind of an automatic default. We didn't specify anything for that. It just defaulted to that. And show you one more thing. If we click on our program over here, on that project, sorry, and then we click on this little wrench, that's going to bring us to the properties page. And again, you can see our configuration here, and you can see our platform, and there's all kinds of options, most of which I do not understand at all, and I will try to explain them as I learn about them in future videos. But for now, I just wanted to show you those things just to motivate the idea that everything we do in Premake is going to modify our project, both in the generation of the project files and also the settings that are checked off within our projects. And I will end there. Thank you for watching the video.